boxes, there's a Cardinal kit from me and Midgley. Look at this. Holy mackerel. Jimmy, I am impressed. Check it out. Lena, you and Karen have matching outfits on. What's going on here?
Come, Lena.
Baby Lena.
Come see what Karen and Wendy brought you.
Lena, I was just watching you the other night on my video, and you were only about a third that size. What happened?
What's in there?
Open it up.
The Cardinal kit they bought you for Christmas? Oh, no, Brodak Nobler. I'm sorry.
Here, look, reach in. Way down. Go way down. What is that? What is that? Pull it out.
Pull it out.
Pull it out.
Oh, the pilot for Midgley's new plane. Oh. Hey.
Where'd you go to Wendy? Stacy and I went shopping.
Come on, give Wendy a big kiss.
Oh, my
Softest animals in the world.
Aren't they gorgeous? How is she?
Oh, she's great.
I always had a way with women.
She couldn't make it because she sang loud.
I talked to Joey this morning, man. He's having fun out there in Arizona.
He told me, well,
In filler coat, yeah. Oh, that looks beautiful. Beautiful. Ready to sand out the filler coat?
no full coat yet.
No. Wow, that looks good.
A tough airplane for me.
Wow. I think you should have made the Ray Brother a little bigger. Look at it, it's beautiful. Nice, nice wingtips. You get this flaps all stripped. Remember last time you were...
they're new flaps.
I love your sled, I gotta tell you, man. I'd love to take that home with me. That'd look just in Rutherford. You know, my birthday's coming up about 9 months.
You go to the antique stores, that's what.
No, I'm gonna, when I'm out by John Brodak, I'll tow one home or something.
What, you take a picture of your plane now?
Yeah, look at that cowling. A real Cardinal cowling, I love it.
That it is.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, it really looks good. Yeah, Joey sounded like he was in a great mood this morning.
Yeah.
I didn't get to talk to him the other night. I was on the phone with somebody else and... 1 second. Ah, they're out of it. Midgley, the Patriots are out of it. Here's the end of the game. Patriots lose. Pittsburgh wins. Okay.
7-6.
There you go. 7-6, they lose. You should have been at that Big Al. I was at the Giant Redskin game. I didn't think I'd ever get home. It was unbelievable. They were celebrating next week. Boop, out of the playoffs. I'm glad I'm not really into football.
Well, they should have never lost that game either.
Nah, no kidding. This is definitely going to be a good one, Jim. I like the shape of the rudder. That's nice. You know what that reminds you of? Gid Atkinson's plane. Remember Gid's plane, that big laser?
He decided he didn't know whether his rudder's going to be that way or round or...
That's not the first rudder on that airplane.
He was going to have twin rudders the last time I was here. Tell me the big rudder story here. We started with twin rudders, but it came out. Oh, it looks good. Hey, this is definitely
I thought he was
good.
making a P-39.
Just the little details, too, the little wingtips and everything. Sand the filler, baby. Get into the sand the filler deal. I just put some clear on the little profile today. Around the lettering and stuff. It's coming out nice. Well, you just got to see this thing at night. It really is nice. Anyway, great party, great day, and good luck with the new plane, Jim. Today, we have an exceptional day. And before I ink around this lettering, I wanted to do a little ink work. I put about 4 or 5 coats of clear over this yesterday. Had it up by the heating vent overnight. And all I'm doing with the M600 and 600 paper is scuffing this up just enough that I can get the ink to stick real nice. This will also degrease it. See, it degreases it at the same time and knock the edge down. And I can go around all the spots that I want to put ink around. I want to feel this with my hand. And without the ink, it really doesn't accent it off as well as with the ink. The ink takes an extra day, but the final result, when you have it all around the lettering, is really spectacular. It really does look nice. And this is where having that nice set of pens with some extra thin tips, thick tips, you can really make some creative stuff around the lettering. And the reality is that the lettering is a big part of the overall look of the plane. Without the lettering, In fact, I hope John's going to come up with some fancy lettering. What a decal this would make. Oh, man. Save you a lot of work. Hey, think about that. A nice big Brodak decal. Anyway, just to clean this up and get this ready for ink, and usually use your hand. Your hand will tell you where there's a spot that needs some work. Here's a spot right there, in fact. This is a spot you can really be fussy on, because you're really coming down to the final little result here where you want to get the clear on. Well, I wish this was ready for clear today, the way the weather is out there. We don't have this kind of weather all the time here in good old New Jersey. And one thing I wanted to mention, and this is really a good tip, anytime you're doing any kind of candy apple paint, if you're going to sand that paint, even with 600 paper, the first thing, get a couple of coats of clear on it. Candy apple paint, when you sand raw candy apple paint, and I made this mistake about 5 times before I figured out what was happening, and then you spray on a thin coat of clear with a lot of thinners, the sanding scratches open up little rivers where, because it's a dye, it then changes color. You don't get that nice smooth color. So any candy apple paint, and quite a few people have really gone to candy apple paint in an effort to, well, you know, make their planes a little bit fancier and everything, but I'm sure other people have figured that out too. Any candy apple paint, any pearl, any of these real exotic paints, get at least a minimum of 1 or 2 coats of clear before you do any sanding, because if you go down into that dyed area, it opens up little things that show up like little rivers in the final coat. Now, because I didn't put clear on this before I put the edge, I've knocked down a couple of the little corners that I'd like to touch up. I filled up one more of the pens, a medium-sized pen, so I have 4 pens all together here for the touch-up. And this is where having this template is real handy. You almost never, at least I never can, get this all in one shot. You always pick up the high spots, and now I can run a line. Basically goes down the edge. Now even if you sand the next coat of clear and this comes off, you pop a little spot through, you'd go by and touch it up. I'm going to drop that down on there. Also, there's little dots in the paint here that need a little touch up. It's real easy, real quick. If you lose an edge, you can just go right by. These are the high spots, the orange peel. And compared to masking this off and having to deal with all those edges, this is nothing. This is seconds to get this back to being prime. You can see the little edge, and that's of course the edge, the step line on the paint. And having that little template, just get one line, let it dry, one line, let it dry, one line. In a matter of a couple minutes, you've got it all totally touched up, and then we can start the lettering. We're having one of the pens with a really fine tip. You can really get in there and put little points on everything. Just another detail you can take care of. Little tiny points. It really accents it. When outlining the letters, one of the ways I find the easiest to do is start at the top. Since I'm right-handed, I like to start at the left and work my way this way. Otherwise, I'm working through and smudging up the ink. And what I've tried to do is start at the top, work my way down through all the letters. Then I'll start from this edge and work my way in, so I'm not dragging my hand through ink. And of course, you have to let this dry in between every line. I don't want to get any little smudges in here that I don't have to. See, with all the lines in, all the hard, I'm sure there's other ways to do this, but I like to get all of the lines going this way first. And anytime you can connect to them, what happens is, if you're laying out the rule, if you can connect to, it just makes it look a lot more like a professional job. I've got all of the lines going this way, or most of them. Now what I want to do is I want to work from, let me make sure I got the right edge of this ruler down. I want to work from this edge over. If you were left-handed, you might want to work from the other edge. A couple of tricks that'll really help you. Do everything with a medium pen. This is an 070. Well, now if you see one of the lines is a little crooked, or you didn't get a good tape edge, or for whatever the reason is, and this looks like one of them, that's why I'm using this one as an example, what I can do is later on, once this dries, I can go back with the next size thicker pen. And by having a whole set of pens, what it allows you to do is you have a lot of choices. You can make the letters look shaded, you could make some three-dimensional edges on them. There's a lot of cute little stuff. Now see, here's another paint line where the paint edge is not perfect. And the ink, boy, the master of this was Jimmy Casal. He used to put edges around the letters, and I was impressed. He did a beautiful job. Now this edge is not too bad, but you'll see when I move this ruler, we're coming up on one of the edges that's not so nice. And we're going to have to try to disguise that. You know, knowing how to cover up your mistakes, little errors. Of course, we're going over silk span, so you notice I'm using a flexible ruler too, not a rigid ruler. Oh, I can just slide this down. Now see, here's an area. This line is just a little bit crooked. I don't know if you can see this on this lens that I'm using. Okay. But boy, this really accents everything. It might be a little time consuming, but hey, if you want to save all the time in the world, then don't build anything. Okay, and I got to come back and do these. See, now this one, to get the perfect connection here, this is just going to require a little bit thicker pen. I go to the next edge, and then I'll come back to this. It's not only accenting, it straightens out any little angles that are not perfect. It's really a good trick. Always let it dry, fan it a little bit, hit it with a hairdryer before you go to the next step. And the last thing, I'll try to get in all the angles and connect the dots. Now when I'm done with this, I can look at it and see if there's any little spots. I see a few that need to be touched up. What I like to do is get a brand new XL blade here, and any little spot where the ink is going out over the white, you got a real good shot at getting it off if you can scrape it off without digging into the paint. And here's a little spot where it went out onto the yellow. When you're using a thick pen, this happens, you almost can't stop it from happening. So sometimes you want to use a thin pen to put points on everything, but right here we need a point. Now you want to get a little tiny point down in the corners. Little point down in there, anywhere where you think you need a point. And it's real good to do one letter at a time, not go skipping and jumping around it, to me anyway. With my eyes, you're lucky you can get one letter at a time done. And that corner we can touch up now. And obviously the next step is to go ahead and just go right down the wing, do one letter at a time. And actually we're looking at a pretty nice day. I may be able to even get some clear on today if I can get this done before dark. This is probably about an hour, hour and a half of work. Okay, that's one letter done. The thing is, look at that letter and look at the letter next to it and look how much more accented or dramatic or whatever you want to call it. Then we're just looking at a redundant thing of going letter by letter by letter, finish them up, flip the wings over, and get the other one done. Oh boy, this, I tell you, it really does look nice when you get all the lettering stuff laid out. And then you know, maybe an hour from now I'll have the other side laid out. Everything's edged. We'll be ready to shoot some clear on this. This is the one step that I always like. It really gives it a little bit of a professional look. I really do like this. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to get a coat of clear over all the ink, over all the paint edges, and this will probably be ready for some clear. What amounts to be a coat of clear on it. I want to see if this is going to fog up or haze up, which it is looking like it's going to rain, but if it does, I can go. This has no retarder in it at all, so it should be good. Mainly I want to get over the lettering, over the edges. And then from this point on, I'll try to get just nice coats of clear once we get some decent weather. Well, I wish it would stay like today for a long time. Exceptional weekend we've had here weather-wise. All the edges, always the edges, the nose. Yeah, it looks like we beat the humidity a little bit anyway. You never really know though in this kind of weather. It looks like it will dry up. Now if it did fog up a little bit, the choice is add another 5, 10, 15% retarder, but in this case I'd like not to add any. Alright, she can go aside to dry. Now this morning, it's been drying up overnight. You can see how the clear is drying. The letters are actually a lot nicer than I thought they would be. Couple little problems, and this is one that you can run into from time to time. You see how this has a little bit of a wrinkly surface in it? And what that's from having too much retarder in that thinner. Had I not had, I wound up at the end putting on a little more retarder because it started getting a little foggy. Well, that can happen. Luckily, it only happened in one little spot here. Now, the way to hopefully cure that, it's not always a cure, is from this point on, put the dope on very, very dry, not much thinner, and even at the expense of letting it orange peel. Now, you can see this has a reasonable shine. Let it orange peel up, and then we'll sand it and buff it when it's done. But this is something that you always have to worry about. If you have too much thinner in the paint, that's could be a problem almost all the time. And it'll just soften up the candy apple paint. You notice it almost never happens over dope, but over candy apple it seems like that retarder gets in there and loosens everything up. Only in that spot. That's the only spot on a plane that it did that. I kind of walked around to look for it because I want to lay out some letrosets here, and I want to do a little light sanding of everything here. The plane has a little bit of clear on it. I want to take a nice light sanding with M600 now. Everything has a good coat of clear on it. Just lightly wet sand everything out. I'm probably going to go through in a couple of ink lines and spots, but this is the point when I want to start knocking everything back down before I get the rest of the clear on here. It just gets, from this point on, but believe me, I want to take advantage of the fact the next couple of days the weather is supposed to be outstanding. So maybe I'll even call Kenny this morning and tell him bring the Nobler over. We can get some paint on that Nobler, because we've been waiting for some good weather. And it looks like we're finally coming up on having some. Now, obviously, at this point in time, you run the risk of going through on high spots. I don't want to get a complete sand out. I don't want to get the whole thing blocked down. I just want to knock down all the little dust that's in here, and mainly those edges. Work the edges. Any spots like that imperfection in the candy apple, I'll try to just delicately sand that out. Not trying to get a final sand out. This is 600 paper. What a break to get this weather. I had no idea this was coming. Actually, it was 60 degrees yesterday. I think they set the record. Anyway, not a big all-day sand out, just, and I'll show this up close, just to knock down some of the high spots. One of the things that's, one of the details I like to make sure I get every time I do a sand out, fold back some sandpaper, get in that hinge line. Now when you're putting the flaps on and you don't have them attached to the plane, of course this becomes a little bit easier. Here, if you put it up, you can get that edge. And I'm trying not to sand through the yellow here. There's only really a couple of coats of clear on here. But maintaining that nice hinge line along the way. If you don't, what happens is it winds up building up every coat of clear, and then it attaches together and makes a mess. One of these little pollywogs, this is an easy spot. Wrap some sandpaper around it. When you're going over ink like these spots I've already gone over, it's better if you go over it dry sometimes. You don't pick up the ink coming off in the M600. Just trying to get any high spots that are sticking up, any orange peel. And of course, the good old hinge line. See, if you let it go for too long, then you can't get it clean. Then you wind up going through the yellow paint or the color that you've got it on. If you maintain it every time, you keep cutting back that coat of clear and you get a nice even hinge line. It's about the only way I can get it, at least on my own, the only way I can get it that it's even close to being like a take apart, where you take the parts apart, the flaps and elevators off until a final minute after it's buffed, and then put the hinges in. Now, there's always just a few little spots, the high spots that come up. I want to touch these up with the fine ink pen. Just go right around. Any little spot, there's a little spot here where I kind of went through, but this is a good time to touch it up. And what I have, and this is what I always do, I save all my old Letrasets. Keep them in plastic bags if you can. I try to keep them segregated. And save all the old ones, because what will happen is you run out of A's, you run out of E's, you run out of J's, and then you have something to go back to. I have some white. I'm going to look through here. I want to do a little Letrasetting on here while I have time. But basically, I did only the top. I'm not concerned with the bottom. Now, the bottom really has a lot less clear on than the top anyway. That area up here sanded flat out, but now I have to be real careful when you go back over it. Very, very dry. That's always the best way to do it. If you even suspect any kind of a little problem, just put the paint on dry. I'm touching up all these little areas. They're just little tiny lines I can get with the fine pen. I don't even need the template for this kind of touch-ups. But if you went through a big ink line, and obviously you could use the plywood template. Once you have that template, you're set for life. And you can make yourself even a little trademark that you can use on all the planes, that like a little insignia. Anyway, I want to get out my letter sets. I always save all the old letter sets. So important, because you always wind up at the end of it that you need an A or an E or something, and oh man, what a pain. And they're $12, at least in our area, they're $12 a sheet. The Tom Lay ones are real good. Usually I like to work horizontal, but this is just a touch-up. Just little dots. Anyway, what I like to do every year is dump all my bags out and see, just take a look through. Here's an empty bag. Junk I'm saving, I can clean. It's a good excuse to clean it up. We could save some Tiger decals, but what I'm looking for is something that's going to coordinate with this lettering, and I have plenty of little styles and stuff to choose from. I have some little Cardinal decals here. Some of these little sheets, never throw them away. Now, a couple little tips. Tom Lay letter sets work great. They are the premier thing. In fact, we got a little extra, so I saved the numbers here on this one in case we want to use them. But if you're going to use any other brand other than Letter Set seems to be the best. What you want to do is practice with the letters that you're not going to use on an old model or something. Because if you press too hard, you get dents in the wood. If you spray clear on and the clear has too much thinner in the first or second coat, it'll melt them. Letter sets seem to be the best, at least in my book, if they're not Tom Lays. Now look, this is what I'm talking about, saving them. Over the years, Midgley and I and several other people have, now here's that empty bag I wanted. We have combined our extra letters into what we now call a letter set box. Obviously, the best of all worlds is when they're fresh or they're new, but you don't even know when you go to an art supply store how new they are. That's one of the problems. I like to keep all the little ones. I'm going to kind of sort through this before I decide what I want to lay out. Again, I saved the wax paper for putting between sheets. I had tried in the past I got a little catalog thing here. I had tried in the past making up, these are some of the rub-ons. Jim Damerel had some rub-ons. But when you want to decorate a plane, it's pretty much like doing a Christmas tree. You want to, this is the Strega lettering. Hey, the old bird's head. And one of the best, if in doubt, use the Tom Lay letter sets. So far, they've been the best. And I'm expecting or hoping that pretty soon John Brodak's going to come out with some letter sets. It's one of the things he has the technology to do it out there. See, this is all the Spitfire letter sets, all in one bag. We'll put those aside. Maybe we can use them. These I wasn't happy with. We tried these, well, Dennis Toth had luck with them, and I didn't. I didn't like how hard you had to press to get them out. Maybe his planes can tolerate a little more heavy pressing, but again, if you save everything in one drawer, one box, this is one of those deals where years later you look, here's all the decals from the F-16, and you look and you have some choices now. Now we have some choices to figure out what we want to actually lay out on this plane. It's going to be simple, but I like to have the choices. Now there's a lot of tools for rubbing out letter sets. One of the best is a good old-fashioned ballpoint pen that's run out of ink. The idea is not to press so hard that you put a dent in a plane. And no matter what tool you use, they make these fancy things you can buy for $100 or $10 or whatever. But the best thing is, I find, just an ordinary ballpoint pen. Again, you have the little lines. I lay out a piece of tape, and just whatever it is going to be what's written there, just lay it out. If you don't like it, or if it's crooked, or if something else, take the tape, peel it up, and just, hey, it's pretty simple. Just do it over again. Always at the end of it, press it down with your finger just a little bit to get the edges down. And then the first coat of clear, the single most important thing, the first coat of clear has to go on very dry with very little thinner. I thought you had a longer name, John. Actually, I'll tell you something. I was going to write on his special thanks DJ John Brodak for all that great music he sent us. Anyway, or make it John Brodaksky. Hey. You're just not happy with the way that worked out? Well, it's real easy. Just pull the letters up, get a piece of tape, if it's really stubborn, you could always use a razor blade, and basically just do it over with whatever is going to be make you happy. See, what's nice is you're never really locked in. If you want to change your name to Sherlock Holmes, you can do anything you want. Something nice about letter sets is you can really like give credit to people that have helped you with the plane. Obviously Ken was a big help. George Ventrini and John Pothy are all people that have helped me in some way in the past year, and I'd like to just acknowledge them. And I thought this is a cute way. I'll make up like a race crew. Hey, just one way of one of many ways. You can kind of invent this as you go along. It's like having your own Reno Air Racer. Now I have to tell you, this is true. This is not, I'm not making this up. Many times I have misspelled things on the plane, so what I do is, in this case I'm spelling George's name. I call his wife up to find out how to spell his name. Nothing worse than spelling somebody's name wrong, especially if they're Polish like George. And you better always give your wife some credit for, especially what goes on in my house. She gets more credit than I do. She deserves it too. Hate to admit it, she does. See, now you can go back and forth and see where you want to add something. And this you really have to improvise it as you go along. You just have to kind of invent it as you go along. Okay, the master of trim, the master of taping things in a corner here.
The finishing editor.
Finishing editor. You're finished, believe me. Anyway, what Kenny's doing, he's laying out the trim. We're going to try to get some of this done either today or tomorrow to take advantage of the good weather. Get that real microfine stripe along there. Fades into the corners and the point, which should be in keeping with the, I don't know, what is it we're trying to keep with here? Keep George awake. He doesn't look awake anyway.
Still trying to catch up with Jerry Sipper in 1962.
Well, I don't know. I think he's got a head start. It was cheating. Wait, the pilot's probably saying, come on, already finished the damn thing. Jeez. All right, what he's doing is laying out 1/8" tape around, first putting on the 1/4 inch, so it's 1/4 inch here, and then laying out an 1/8" tape border. And as soon as you get that you're happy with this, of course you want to lay back, go over this again. Did you card this off with a card?
No.
Okay. And use that as your edge. It really would be a good idea to card that.
I figured you'd do that for me after I went home. I guess
you have a
laugh
long
means
wait.
You're not gonna do it.
You have a long wait. Oh, it was such a nice day. I raked up the garden here while Kenny was doing some trim. He's going to have that thing ready to go pretty soon. Either today or tomorrow. He's a confused individual when it comes to getting a trim on. He wants to get it looking like Jerry Sipper's plane or something. I don't know. Anyway, what I did, I ran a little test over here. Took out one of my little things. Boy, I'm just loving this beautiful day. I feel like I live in Anaheim, California or something here. Got one coat on this. I'm waiting to see if it's going to dry without any haze or fog, and it looks fine. And that usually is telling me I'm pretty close on the mixture. As soon as I know that, then I can get the wheel pants and then get the mainframe out here. But always do a little test, because it was real humid this morning. It looks like it's burning off now. Look at the paint flow on a little parts. This is the tip weight box. Looks like it's going to be fine, so I'm going to take a chance and get some paint on the mainframe. There are crows in the background. Anyway. Anytime you're in doubt, I'm trying not to use any more. Trying not to use any of that retarder. It melted the candy apple a little bit there. I hope I'm not going to have a problem. But if in doubt, it's always better to put on a lot of thin coats, let it dry a little between coats. Now while this is drying, I'll go down there and give Kenny a hand masking off that Nobler, but try to get my time management real efficient here. While we have a nice day, I get the most done that I possibly can. Now here's the thing, with a thin coat like that, you can see how nice and shiny it is. One of the things you run the risk of, that's the way it should flow, even on a humid day with no retarder in there at all. Problem is, if you get carried away and keep putting it on, what happens is it's going to get foggy. I'm sure. I can feel the humidity in the air, so I think I'm going to go, especially over those electrosetted areas, just put a very little on at a time. Give it a lot of thin coats. Anyway, we got our race crew going over here. We got Karen going over here. And I think we're going to try to get some clear on this before the weather changes. There's not a lot of paint on the bottom, so I'll definitely do a little test here, see if the paint's fogging up. Don't want to get it too wet over the candy apple spots. Don't melt any more of this candy apple stuff. Remember, it's better a lot of thin coats than to get it all dripping and drooling. Especially with the humidity the way it is, or it's unpredictable. A lot on the edges, all on the edges. Extra around all the paint lines. Okay, now if that doesn't fog up in the next 10 minutes, we'll be ready to paint. A lot cheaper than a finishing friend, too. This is a good idea, by the way. Always hold the hose with your other hand or it's banging into everything. Maybe one of the things I never really put on the tape. It's a good idea. Now remember, we're going over the electrosets for the first time. So the first thing I want to do is just get a fogging coat on there. Just a least little bit. Let that dry. No heavy amounts of paint on it. Let that dry off. Spreading up the edges. And give that some time to dry before we do the rest of the model. You can see in the last half hour it's just started to get humid out, that the paint is getting foggy as I'm putting it on, so I'm going to put this away and live to fight another day. I don't want to take any chances that this is going to get all foggy and cloudy. It's just on the verge of that now. In fact, it's still early enough. Karen's not home. I'm going to run over and turn the heat up in the house, stick it by a heating vent, and then just before she comes home, put it out in the garage. Even he's got a little cloudy. That humidity is right on the borderline, and I do not want to add. From this point on, I don't want to have any retarder in the paint at all. We'll live to fight another day here with this clear. Well, it's going to be too late to go to lunch pretty soon. Hey, we can always go down to Meadowlands if they're not open. All right, Kenny's getting that edge down. Actually, he didn't want me to tape this. He says, you should do this before, right?
You should do this before you put the
True.
tape on.
True, but then we're not working for NASA. We're working for... who are we working for, George?
Oh, I can't remember.
I don't know. Somebody won this battle. Anyway, that's starting to look... Holy crap, there's the Spitfire on TV. Every time I turn out of my eye, I remember that day. All right.
You gotta remember, Scotch goes in the drink, the Prestone goes in the radiator.
All right, once that's down, he's got the little bit of this laid out. But we're going to go back and forth until we get exactly the trim. Well, he wants that little look of, like, similar to the old planes of the 50s, like the old cars that used to have all those flames on the front of them and everything.
A lot of edge there, though.
Well, what do you think? You ready to do the tail? Okay. Is that you're going to be happy with that? That looks kind of like in keeping with a 50s plane.
Yeah, well, you know, we'll look at it in a few minutes and keep looking at it and seeing how we think. But, you know, yeah, I kind of like that.
Okay.
Sand it down with some.
Yeah, put some 80 grit on there, George. Okay. All right, this you could start backmasking. This is ready. In fact, why don't you try this? Maybe we can get the whole top of this done today. Just shoot for getting the top done.
Yeah, then we'll do the
bottom tomorrow, because it looks like it's too humid out there to paint right now. It's terrible. All right, some days you got to win, and some days you got to live to fight another day here. All right, Kenny was puttering back and forth with this stripe on the side here. In fact, we didn't get enough time to really even start the white. We'll start it tomorrow. Did get one side laid out, though. This guy's drying up very, very significantly. I think we quit right while we were ahead. This just about fogged up. We had a lot of humidity later on in the day, but we managed to quit while we're ahead. We'll get another coat on that tomorrow. This guy's sitting up here waiting to dry right now, and I think he's going to be fine. It's a little bit on the foggy side, but the trick with this fogginess, super important. You see it's getting foggy, quit while you're ahead. Wait for a better day. Got a whole crew laid out here. Hey, I hope everybody, not the AMA number is probably illegal, but who cares? Not trying to push the envelope here or anything. Anyway, I got a lot of cool stuff in the mail today. Let me share some of it with you. A lot of cool stuff. Now, it's just ironic. We're building this shop out for Kenny and my real good friend, one of my favorite people, Brent Jordan. The caption on the back of this, you got to read the caption. He says, "I need more plugs." Look at this guy. He's got more plugs than I have in my whole house here. Brent, you got enough plugs already. Anyway, this is a new shop, and he sent me some pictures of, you know, how it's progressing, coming along. Hey, DeJulia would love this. All kind of illegal wiring going on there. Anyway, some nice pictures of what the outside of the shop looks like. Now you got to realize, you know, he's building this. This is totally separate from the house. So that's his daughter. Look at this. Look at the shop, though. Just check. I'm trying to read the captions one by one. It's cold. I got to get this place insulated. I heard he's not paying really good wages, and that's the reason he has. It's been taking him, I think, 15 years to build his shop. Anyway, this is like a DeJulia shop. It's really nice. Anyway. Look at the soup of it. Look, he's got his daughter smacking hammers. Okay, you know what you do? Hit him right on the toe with that hammer. Anyway, this is one nice shop. Now, Brent is a warbird lover, among other things, and I've been loaning him a bunch of warbird videos and different things that we enjoy up here, so he really went the extra mile. And for Christmas, I get Confederate Air Force mug. Look at this. I'm telling you, I can mix dope in here. I can use this for shave. I don't shave, so it doesn't matter. I only shave my legs. Look at this. Nice. Also, anyway, this is my t-shirt. This was my Christmas present. Check it out. And Banjock, I'll see you wearing this. You know, at one of the next contests, Banjock's got this awesome Mustang. We're going to have the Mustang shootout here with the Red Baron. Anyway, Brent, I really appreciate these gifts. Unbelievable. He also set up a real short tape. Maybe I'll put some of it at the end of this, of the Warbird meet down in Midland, Texas. The Warbird, the Ghost Squadron, or whatever they call it. Anyway, and he took some video, some home video. I have a copy. Maybe at the end of this, or one of the real up-and-coming tapes, we'll get a couple of minutes of that. Brent Jordan, the hat. Anyway, check this out. Brent sent this too, as if we didn't have enough. Ghost Squadron. Oh, I love it. Banjock, get that Mustang finish, and don't give me that stuff that you got to do some super windy finish or something on it. Just get it flying so we can get the Red Baron, that one out there at the same time. Oh man, look at this. Paul Walker's B-17 on the cover. Oh man, tell me this isn't a great book. Tell me this view isn't great. What I need is the new 1998 Ghost Squadron calendar, man, to complement my 1998 Lionel Train catalog. Every room has a catalog in this house. Old Fifi, we were down at Teterboro to see Fifi last time she was in. And don't think in my lifetime I won't have time to build one of these with the shark mouth. That is definitely coming. I love that look. Well, I bet Adamusco would love this. He's another one. We've talked about P-40s. P-40 project. That is an awesome looking plane. You got it, even with a sliding canopy, or that'd even be the extra little. There you go, Banjock. Invasion stripes. Oh man, gotta do it. Brent was telling me that they crashed this guy, this F-82, twin Mustang. Banjock, if you want to make two of those Mustangs, hey, here's the deal. We can glue two of them together. Look at this. Look at the machine guns in the center piece of the wing. Look at the skull and crossbones on the nose of this. It's an A-20 Havoc. Great book, Brent. Great book. Hey, we'll have this one around for a while. I don't think you'll be getting this back right away, Brent. It's A26 here. Nice Douglas. You never have too many invasion stripes. Nasty looking Mitchell here with some nose art. Yeah, that'd be a nice nose section for a nice model. That'd make a good stunt model. We can get Brodak to come up with a Warbird Messerschmitt here. Yeah, that's nice. And what Warbird collection would be complete without a Spitfire? Oh, man. This is a nice paint job for a scale plane. Now this guy, the 111, was down at Teterboro once already. We have this on video. I think we have it even more than once when it was down there visiting on a Warbird show. Rounding out the day in pictures, my nice picture from Mike Wada here. Making an Intrepid XL PA-51. Sends a nice picture from his shop. Mike Wada of Hawaii. Thanks, Mike. And hey, good luck with the plane. Let's have some pictures when it's painted. This is Walter Hicks, and he modified a Pathfinder. I'm looking at this. It looks like a chipmunk. Look, he tried to make it look like a chipmunk. Anyway, thanks to everybody for the mail. Hey, it was great today. It was a good day. Oh, it's a beautiful rainy day, so rather than waste the day, and we're going to try to do all indoor stuff. I really wanted to get some painting done, but this is the kind of stuff you run into. Get up in the morning and it's raining. No, I guess we'll set up and make some horns today. Show up close. What happens is when I cut these, they obviously have a rough edge. Now, we just got this for Christmas, and what I've been doing is grinding them on here to get a flat edge, and then running them on this wheel, and it makes a really nice polished edge, which will come out in the plating. Usually, because of time management, I like to do between 500 and 1,000 at a time. We got a little over 500 here, and this is when it rains in Jersey, you make control horns. This is the deal. All right, the plastic tape was pulling back.
Pulls back.
Okay, now the way Brodak solves that problem is when he this is not his tape, but when you put that on, you got to put a piece of masking tape on an inside corner. So for right now, just take this inside corner off, and do it with the regular 1/8" tape. Actually, if you get this, you can put some white on this later today. That'll be nice. It's still lousy out there. I'm not gonna work. And Brent, we are enjoying your video, believe me. And we love the shop. By the way, if your wife ever kicks you out of the house, you can move into that shop. You could probably rent it, too. There's probably a lot of other things as we get used to using it that we could use this wheel for, but it really does put a nice burr-free edge on the horn. Real nice edge. If you think it's boring, cutting and deburring 1,000 pieces of wire, it's not half as boring as bending them. Anyway, thanks to this John Brodak invention bender, it seems to go pretty good. Actually, I'm anticipating getting all this done in one day. Got the dead stops fine-tuned. And it's just a question of sitting here and daydreaming about the new Spitfire or something. Yeah. This is the part of the day I like. Sit down with these. I counted 770, but I think there's more in there. That's a decent day's work, even for me. We really only have a few more to do, but you'll notice at the end of the day you get a lot quicker, a lot faster than you do at the... And being able to bend wire easily, quickly, I hope when I made this wire bender I put enough of the tips on there that basically anybody be able to do it. We also added today to our list of good friends and customers that'll be using these horns in their kits, the Stuka Stunt Team. So we've got to make an extra 100 for them. Coming out with some kind of Stuka kit, you might want to call them and get the information ahead of time. But it's going to have pro stunt controls in it, I hope. Maybe it'll have no controls at all. Anyway, they do go fast after a while. Just when you thought he'd never finish putting the tape on it. What did it take you, 2 weeks?
It took me a week and a half to get the tape on.
Okay.
No, I started last night about, what, 2 o'clock or something?
I don't know. It's taken way too long. Anyway, he's got it. He's putting a coat of clear on. And we're going to start getting a white striping on this, I hope, within this millennium.
Within the hour.
See, here's what you got to watch for. You see where the tape is bending here?
Yeah.
And we don't have any more of the red Brodak red tape, but you need to, just before you put the clear on, whack that down with your fingernail. Yeah. So you got a couple of, when you're making hard corners like this, you got to just get it down with your fingernail. And I'll mix you up some white with a lot of extra pigment for doing the striping, so you can get it maybe in 2 coats, but I don't know. I find it always needs 3. There's almost no way you can beat the system on 3 coats. Now with that red Brodak tape, you wouldn't have to put the clear on, but then you'd have to tape everything down so it didn't walk in, so it's really a trade-off. But anyway, we hope we're going to have the best of both worlds here. And we hope soon, we're going to have some weather. We can get the, boys, he got a nice color, candy apple red maroon or whatever it is to do this. But
they call it maroon. Looks like cherry to me.
Yeah, it's too humid today. Don't even think about painting outside today. Still too humid. Now it's nice if you have a long-haired brush like this and you can just get, there's about 25% extra pigment in there. Get a nice even stroke. Try not to go back over the dope if you can. That's easier to say than do. I know. Well, we'll get all of this stuff, get everything with 1 coat of white on it here, and tomorrow we'll pull the tape up, and boy, I hope it isn't going to be humid like this tomorrow. I'd like to get the maroon on this guy. I'll really start to shape up.
Well, if it doesn't...
Okay, today we got our box from John Brodak with all the tools that Ken's going to have in his new shop. And we've been trying to decide, well, it's really, we don't have the time to do it step-by-step now, but a lot of these are tools that when you don't have them, if you don't have thin needle nose pliers, you make yourself crazy. If you don't have cutters. One of the things I want to try, I've seen people use these, is the roller cutters. Some of this stuff, you think, oh boy, it's overkill, but the real thing is something we could have used the other day, the Letraset tool. Because we didn't have these sitting right here, right at our fingertips. Now that Ken's setting up the shop, we're going to try to make some kind of a pegboard or an organizer for it. And one by one, as we use the tools, show some, like I know this thing works real good, the handy little tips and tricks. Mine, I had some of these, somebody borrowed them, and the big ones are even handier. So the point is, when you set up a shop from the get-go, you can get it all. Actually, you can get the whole thing from John Brodak, and it should work out real well. The whole thing here, the little vise, we'll have to set up a little pegboard down at the shop. I think that's going to work out real well. And the point is, if you don't have the right tools, a lot of times you have to, like I had to do this Christmas, bite the bullet and get the stuff. And just get it over with, and so you can get on with building. And in this case, we have plenty of stuff here. I know, this is one of the things I've been trying to improve on my stuff, is cutting of fiberglass. This, you just say you could use monocoat for it too.
Yeah,
But what this is going to give us is one by one, as we get to use the tools, we'll try to find some tricks and some little better ways of using them and whatever. So it's coming. It's coming. We got a lot of stuff to do, but we got work to do on his shop today. We're not really going to get a lot done. And it's pouring rain. As if that wasn't bad enough, it's pouring rain too. Just as, because we're pretending we could paint today, one of the things that I'm always looking for is little ways of holding, squeeze that, Ken. How nice this is when you're going to paint parts. These nice little vices. This is one of the things I wanted to add to the shop. You can see over the years I've invented all kind of little ways with tubes and sticks and pliers. But you know what? Squeeze that again. You know what? If you have the tool, and this is certainly the right tool, you can do that instead of what we've been doing, and you can see how I've done it in the past. So again, we're upgrading things little by little, and we're going to try to get a lot of this stuff. A lot of times when you have a new tool, you don't know all the little tricks for using it, but hey, I know this is one of the ones. Next time we do a fiberglass job, we're going to try that, or if Al does the monocoat work.
Yep. Well, it sure beats having to, stop in the middle of the day and take 2 hours to invent something.
Yeah. The little things like the little vise, and just let me show some. Hey, while we're talking, you have to improvise a lot. I've been doing a little bit of soldering of the horns. I set up this, it's a T of aluminum, and then I just peg the horns in there, sight down to make sure they're all 90 degrees, and then do the soldering operation. But what we're going to do now, because we have the big shop, we're going to go over to the big shop and do the soldering. This is, again, upgrading the tools, upgrading the equipment. The end result is everything gets easier to do. When you can just upgrade one little thing, like just these little things where I'm always using my X-Acto knives. If I had those little scissors and stuff, little vices. There's so many neat little tools in the world. It's unbelievable. I love looking at stores. Now, when you have this many horns to solder, this is just, you can use a little propane tanks, a little MAP gas tanks, and you basically can, when you have to do this many though, the only real way to do it is you have to have an acetylene torch. You really, when I'm making up a little batch of 10 or 20 or 50, yeah, it's fine, but when you're making up 700, you really do need an acetylene torch for this to make any kind of production. Now we're basically back to another rainy day. This is like the 5th rainy day in the world. And even though I really want to spray some clear on this, I know I'm just, I don't know, there's a saying, shoveling oatmeal against the tide, and I'm shoveling right now. The humidity, even in the cellar here, is too high to paint. So what I'm going to do is a lot of people really don't understand when you have a humidity problem what's really happening. Let me do a quick little storyboard. We're almost at the end of this, and I want to see what Kenny's doing down at his shop today. In fact, maybe I'll bring the horns down there and keep them company, and we'll solder up the horns while we're down there. We got a big acetylene torch down there. The job will go a little faster. Well, if there ever was such a question as the most asked question about finishing, this is definitely it. You get this all the time. People all over the country. They have their substrate, maybe even there. Let's make a true presentation here. You have your substrate. In this case, it was the silver. In this case, we have the yellow. And all that went on in relatively humid or reasonably humid conditions. Now you have the clear. This is the substrate. And that's basically what we're looking at right now. But what happens when you put the clear on? Typically you put the clear on a lot thicker than the rest of the paint. This paint you're trying to get on, you know, just a minimum amount of yellow. Then you get to the clear and you want to get nice big thick coats of it on. You want to bury all electrosets, bury all the trim lines, etc. So you wind up with this situation here where you have a thick amount. Now what happens? When you get humidity, normally this amount, this thickness, all inside of here, as you're spraying paint, and if you understand this little concept, then the rest of it, you don't even have to ask the next question. As you're spraying this, what an artist I'd be, huh? Can you imagine? As you're spraying this, here comes the paint out of the gun, and in the air is all little droplets of moisture, or humidity, or fog, or rain, or whatever we're talking about. So now the paint goes through here, and if you don't think this is a great drawing, this is true. All these little molecules of moisture are now in the paint. It acts like a magnet, it picks them up. Now the paint is laying down on here, and if you can picture this, if you just get this idea of what's happening, the rest of it is easy to figure out. There's moisture in here. Well, now, anybody knows that the moisture is mixing with the thinner at the same time. It mixes with the thinner and starts to gas off. So ultimately, when there's a very little humidity in the air, it's not a problem. It winds up, or 99.9% of it winds up being dissipated into the atmosphere. It starts coming out. But now you have another problem. When you're spraying lacquer, lacquer likes to skin over. And once it skins over, you've got the humidity trapped in here. Now it can't get out. And when you have enough of it trapped in there, up at some point like we had the last time we sprayed, there's so much humidity in there, go look at a foggy window on a foggy that you find out it gets milky and cloudy when you have too much. Now, the ways you can get around this up to a point, of course you can spray, if you have controlled conditions, you can spray in the rain, the snow, and whatever. I just don't have the option of spraying in the house like I did in the past. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You can get a dehumidifier. Now, down in Steve DeJulia's shop, he has a great setup. You can get the heat up, the dehumidifier out, actually get the wife out, get everybody out, put your mask on and spray. We don't have that choice. Another choice is you can add thinner. You can add more thinner because the extra thinner is allowing this a longer and longer drying cycle. So more and more of this is bleeding its way out, and sometimes you can beat the system that way. Now you can use retarder. You can use high gloss thinner or retarder, which really aren't totally different. What happens when you use retarder? It takes longer and longer for this to skin over, and in the time that it's skinning over, the problem is it's not only going up and out, it's going down into your glue joints and down into your wood, swelling the paint itself, melting canopies, melting electrosets. So this is really the one situation I like to say 10% is the most I feel safe using. When you get to 15, hold on to your canopies and things like that, and fillet areas, because this can really be a problem. So I like to avoid this. And then the last situation, and this is the situation that we're in right now. We're really backed up against the wall, you know, and you just wait. You just wait for less humidity. Now you can buy a humidity gauge. I don't know what you call it. I don't have one. But there's another way you can do it. You can just turn on the local weather. And if the humidity is sky high, if it's above 70%, you're probably going to have a problem. If it's above 90, you're definitely going to have a problem. So you can wait. This is the option that we have now, and it's not my first choice. But since we're not rushing to finish this plane for a certain day or a target day or whatever, And since we would like to have a nice finish, the choice right now is to just wait it out. And sometimes, like everything else in life, sometimes just waiting it out is the easiest thing of all. But I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're dealing with. You can see, even though it stopped raining, just a quick look out at the picnic bench where we were painting, you know today is shot. Even if it does clear up, and if it did get sunny, well, there's so much of this moisture and humidity in the air right now. Sometimes you just have to wait, and that's learning that patience is probably a good lesson. It's probably a lesson that's worth learning too. Again, you can see when you push the system a little bit and if the paint isn't drying with a gloss of any kind, you know you're trapping some humidity in there. And it's really, right now, you're backed up against the wall. There's really no easy way. So what we're going to do is pack up the whole setup here, go over to the other shop, and hey, just try to make whatever we can out of the day. Maybe we'll paint some furniture or something over there if we can today. Definitely not a day to spray dope. Now, right by my desk, I have a, I don't know, collection of pictures people have sent me or whatever. That for whatever reason wound up being here, but there's one on the next tape. This is the plane that Dave flew into the fence, and on the next tape I expect he'll be down here. And this plane is now missing a wing and whatever, and we're going to try to do a pretty thorough repair and maybe even a refinish on it. I don't know what Dave really wants to do, but that'll be our next subject, our next shop. Can you say that fast? Shop subject. Chop subject. Oh my God. Anyway, hey, we'll see you on the next tape. Watch this plane amazingly catch fire and burn. Never to be seen from again. Thanks for joining us. Please share the tapes with your friends.